Is the microphone working? Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jeff Bradley, and I have one question to ask all of us. Are we ready in New Hampshire, the live free or die state, to cast the vote that will be heard around the world? Are we ready? Yeah. To elect a president who will get our economy back on track. To elect a president who will restore faith in our military and make sure we never apologize. We are ready. I want to pay special tribute before I introduce a very special friend of New Hampshire to some really good and, in my case, old friends of New Hampshire who are now on the Romney team. Former Congressman, my good friend Bill Zeliff, stand up. Former Commissioner of Safety, Richard Flynn. Former Belknap County Commissioner, Mark Thurston. A very successful business person. Welcome to the Mitt Romney team. And now it's an honor to introduce somebody who has already changed the culture of Washington, somebody who fought through a tough primary and a tough election, and who has gone to Washington and is restoring common sense in our nation's capital. Let's give a warm New Hampshire round of applause for Senator Kelly Ayotte.
So wonderful to be here with you in Rochester. Are you ready to go out and vote on Tuesday? I'll tell you why I'm here today. Because I'm so worried about our country. We are at a turning point right now. And under this current president, we've added nearly $5 trillion to our debt. We've lost close to 1.7 million jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, we're losing the American dream. And I feel very blessed to be here today with my husband, Joe Daly. And we have two wonderful children who are 4 years old and 7 years old. And we need to preserve the American dream. And that's why I'm here to support Mitt Romney. Because unlike the current occupant of the White House, he understands how to balance a budget. He's done it in the private sector. He's done it as governor of Massachusetts. And he knows we have to get our fiscal house in order in Washington to preserve the American dream. Unlike the current occupant of the White House, he actually knows how our economy works and how to create private sector jobs. And he will get Americans working again and make sure that those opportunities are there for my children and your children in the greatest country on earth. And unlike the current occupant of the White House, you know, Joe and I, we come from a military family. Joe served in the Iraq War, an A-10 pilot, and I trust Mitt Romney to keep us safe. As the commander-in-chief of this country, he will listen to our military and make sure that we protect America instead of listening to pollsters or political advisors. This is a very important election. I ask you to get out on Tuesday. You have the ability on January 10th to nominate someone who will lead our country forward. We'll get our fiscal house in order. We'll get people working in this country, and we'll make sure that we are protected. And talk about a wonderful family. I've had the chance to get to know Mitt and Ann Romney, and they are wonderful people. We will be proud to call Mitt Romney President of the United States and his wife Ann First Lady. Happening in this campaign is that conservative leaders around this country are coming together to support Mitt Romney. And today I have the privilege of introducing a wonderful conservative leader in our country, someone who has served with distinction as governor of the state of Minnesota, someone who understands fiscal responsibility and is pro-family. It is my honor to introduce Governor Tim Pawlenty and to welcome him back to the Granite State.
Thanks a lot. It's great to be back in New Hampshire. Are you ready to be done with Barack Obama's decline of power? Are you ready to elect a president of the United States who doesn't strangle the economy by its throat, by its economic throat? Have you had enough of President Obama appointing judges who don't interpret the law as written but make it up on the back of a napkin? Are you ready to do everything you can in this room and beyond to make Mitt Romney the next president of the United States of America? New Hampshire once again is in a position to catapult Mitt Romney towards the White House, and you got such a great responsibility and a great opportunity in front of you, and you've exercised that wise judgment time and time again. You just elected one of the greatest United States senators in the country, Kelly Ayotte. You're so fortunate. I want to tell you just two things before I introduce Mitt and Ann Romney. The first is a story from the campaign trail that I experienced just not long ago. It's a true story. I met a 10-year-old boy. His name was Malin, and he came up to me outside of a campaign event, and he and his mom, he in particular, wanted to tell me his thoughts about some of the economic challenges facing the country. He's 10 years old. And I said, go ahead, tell me what it is. He said, well, Governor, if you keep the taxes low, then people will have more money. And he said, if people will have more money, then they'll buy more things. And if people buy more things, then businesses will be busier. And then he went on to say, and if businesses are busier, then they'll hire more people. And then they'll have more money. Ladies and gentlemen, we should have to have a 10-year-old boy know more about the private economy than the President of the United States. I know a little bit about the challenges that Mitt Romney, as a conservative leader of the governor of the state of Massachusetts, had. That's no easy task, being a conservative governor of a state like Massachusetts. Now, I know a little bit about that. I'm from Minnesota, the land of McCarthy and Mondale and Humphrey and Jesse Ventura. And now, United States Senator Al Franken hasn't voted for Republican for president since 1972. I love my state. It's filled with great people. But I know the challenges as a conservative that Mitt faced in a tough environment like Minnesota for a Republican in Massachusetts. He cut taxes, he cut spending, he grew jobs, and he did the important work on behalf of the conservative movement in so many other ways. I want to share one other point with you, and that is, in addition to all the policy positions, in addition of his great record of leadership and results as a governor, leader of the Olympics, and private business leader, I hope you're proud and pleased to support a candidate and with the character of Mitt Romney and the future First Lady of this great nation, Ann Romney. These are two individuals who don't just talk the talk, they walk the walk. And if you look and see if the way that they live their lives lines up with the values that they espouse, it does. And there's not going to be a day where we pick up the newspaper and we see that Mitt Romney did something stupid or scandalous or that embarrasses the nation. He's a man of great character. He's a man of great integrity. And so is Ann. They're going to be a great couple for leading America. I want to make sure that you give him another New Hampshire warm welcome. And I want to introduce to you the next President of the United States of America, Mitt Romney.
Welcome here in Rochester. I am so delighted to be here. I have not seen this extraordinary place. It's comfortable to be in, and it's warm just to be in this room with all of you, not just temperature-wise, but also emotion-wise. I'm moved by your willingness to be here today. I can't get over the fact that people pay so much attention to politics in this great state. It is something we do well. But last night, if any of you were watching the debate instead of the Lions-Saints game, I mean, how many watched the Lions-Saints game last night, all right? Yeah, come on, be honest. There you go, that's what we're doing. I gotta be honest. Now, how many were watching the debate last night? Oh, wow, that's something. And then the rest of you do something more interesting than either one, right? It really was great fun last night, and again this morning, I felt we shouldn't have stopped. We should have gone right straight through the night, just kept on talking. Cure for insomnia, that would have been, but I'm so happy to be with you today, and I have family here. You're going to introduce the family. Oh, good. This is the number one member of the family. This is, as you know, most of you have heard by now that I saw Ann in elementary school. I didn't know who she was. I mean, she was in second grade. I was in fourth. You don't pay a lot of attention to kids in the second grade, but when she became just about 16, I paid a lot of attention. And we have been going steady ever since she turned 16. So my sweetheart and wife of 42 years, Ann Romney.
To cheer us on. We're going to get across that finish line on Tuesday. I want to have my kids, and come on kids, I want to have them all come up here. I'll see if I can get their names straight. When I'm angry, I don't. that's for sure. As a young mom, I had 5 very rambunctious sons, and I would tell Mitt when he'd call if he was traveling, and I would just be exasperated. I'd say, you know, I'm really having a hard time with these kids. And he was great because he would remind me that my job is more important than his job, and he meant it. That was the cool thing about it. Now, being a grandmother is all about revenge. And when these little ones here are naughty, I look at my sons, I'm like, oh, you guys deserve it. So I love it when these kids misbehave. I'll start with my youngest son, Craig. His wife, Mary. My oldest son, Taggart. His son, Joseph. No. Oh, yeah, you can wait. And number 2 son, Matthew. His wife, Lori. Nicholas and Chloe, they're twins, and we have Mia. So, you know, people always say to me, you know, Mitt's been so successful in everything he's done, but you know, you all know about his success. He was successful in business. He was successful turning around the Olympics. He was successful as governor. But the success that matters to me is the success that you see here, because that's the treasure, and that's where we measure our happiness. And so for me, I am just always grateful that in a young married life, Mitt had the right perspective on what was the most important thing in life. And now, as we face this future, I look backwards to the heritage that I got from my grandfather, who was a Welsh coal miner, and the opportunities that I had to live in this wonderful country. And now I'm thinking what's going to come for these kids that are sitting on the stage, and what kind of opportunities are they going to have. And that's why about a year ago, I told Mitt, I'm sorry, sweetheart, you got to do this again. People ask me, how did you get to that place? Because 4 years ago, after the end of the last campaign, I said, I know one thing for certain, never going to do this again. Mitt laughed when he heard me say it, and he said, you said that after every pregnancy. You know, you can understand that too. So the reason I believe he needed to run was because I believed in my heart that he was the one person. I couldn't predict whether he was going to win, but I knew if he did, he would be the one person that could turn this country around, and that's why we need him so desperately. So let's go.
Thank you. The boss. Thank you, sweetheart. Senator Bradley, thank you for being here. Senator Ayotte, what an extraordinary star in Washington, D.C. and around the country. Thank you, Senator Ayotte. Governor Pawlenty, a hero from Minnesota. You know, you think about all the blessings we have and all the great gifts that are bestowed to us over the years, and there's nothing that comes to mind so immediately today as the great gift of being born in this country, being a citizen of the United States of America. The fact that this is the land where for hundreds of years, people who were seeking freedom, people seeking opportunity, people hoping to rise above the circumstance of birth or some other trauma in their life came here. This was the land that was the shining city on the hill that Ronald Reagan spoke of in so many ways, morally, economically, militarily. America has been the greatest gift to the world. And to be born here, to be able to live here, to be raised here, what extraordinary privilege that is. I hope our kids understand that with that extraordinary gift comes responsibility. And a responsibility to pursue excellence every way we can, to get the education we might be able to achieve, to find work and to work hard in our jobs, to be innovative and creative, to raise families if that's part of your desire, and raise them in a way of responsibility. We have such great responsibilities as citizens, in part because of the huge blessings we have by being Americans. My wife introduced almost all the members of the family. There are 2 more that she did not introduce. They're the black sheep, but we kept them behind. No, I'm kidding. These are her two brothers who happen to be here. One from California, who's a doctor. One who is a entrepreneur in Utah. Will you two guys stand up? You don't need to applaud. Just stand up. So I see that. Sit down. Davies, Rod Davies. When I think about the blessing of America, I think not only about my own dad. My dad, by the way, was born in Mexico, of American parents living there. And he came back to the United States when he was about 5 or 6 years old with his parents, and his dad went broke a couple of times. My dad never got a college degree, but he was able to achieve his dreams and became a successful business person. But it's Ann's dad, and those two guys' dad, that their story touches my heart a bit, because Ann mentioned that their grandfather was a coal miner in Wales, and he was injured in an accident, a coal mining accident. And what would you do if you're in Wales with children? He had 4 children of his own. What would you do if you were unable to work there? You'd hope to come to America, and that's what they did. Not all as a family, they had to come sort of one by one. He came first and earned money in factories, I think outside the Detroit area. And then would send money back to bring back other members of the family one by one. Finally, they all came here. And they recognized that in order to pursue the dreams they had, not just for their generation, but for the generation beyond, that they needed to pursue education in any way they might be able to do. And they found that education was expensive here if you wanted to go to college. And so the family, the children, and the parents got together and decided that if they all saved their money from all their jobs, and everybody had a job, all the kids and the parents, if they saved their money from their jobs and they pooled it together, they could afford to send one of them to college. And they chose Ann's dad and Rod and Jim's dad to be the one that they would give their money to. I thought, gosh, can you imagine as a brother or a sister saying, I'm going to work, scrimp, save, put the money in the jar in the center of the kitchen table so my brother can go to college. Can you imagine? That's the kind of spirit that fills the hearts of people who come here and made this their home. They helped him go to college. He went to the General Motors Institute of Technology, where by virtue of working part-time while you're there and going to school, the cost is relatively modest. And then he came out, became an engineer, and did what a lot of Americans did. He started his own little business. He made machines that washed windows for a while. He made golf carts for a while. He ultimately made parts for ships, steering gears and so forth, and built himself a wonderful living. And by the way, employed his brothers and the husband of his sister in the business. And his sister came into the business, and he helped pay them back in some respects for their extraordinary sacrifice. This nation is so unusual. There's nowhere else in the world that stories like that just fill the countryside, where people talk about having come here, or ancestors who came here, who built a brighter future for themselves and for their loved ones. It's in the heart of what it was that this country became when the founders made this brilliant observation. And that was that the state did not give us our rights, but that the Creator gave us our rights. And that the king was not the sovereign, but the citizen was the sovereign. And when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, those powerful words, that we were endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In this country, each individual could pursue happiness as they might choose. The circumstance of birth would not be a barrier. There'd be challenges to overcome, but people could, by virtue of their hard work and their education that they might be able to achieve, and their risk-taking and their dreams, could pursue a course that would perhaps provide great rewards for them, or perhaps not, rewards to the next generation. And so we became a nation that attracted the pioneers of the world, the innovators, the freedom seekers, those that wanted to build and create came here. It's in our DNA. It's kind of who we are. When I say DNA, I'm talking spiritually speaking. It's just part of the American spirit to love freedom and to cherish the capacity to set our own course in life. It's what makes us the economic powerhouse we are. By the way, I know these are tough times. There are tough times in America. A lot of people suffering, and I'm concerned about why that's gone on so long. But don't forget, of course, that an American has 50% higher income than does an average European. We have some real challenges, but I certainly don't want to become more like Europe. I want to stay true to the principles that made us the nation we are. I look at what's happened over the I look at these last 3 years and I just shake my head. I don't think the president gets it. I don't think he gets what's so unique about America. I don't think he gets the power of people pursuing their dreams, of the pursuit of happiness as described in the Declaration of Independence. I don't think he feels it. He experiences it the way so many of you do, and I do, by virtue of having lived in the real world. There's nothing wrong with spending your entire life in politics, but it's a kind of a bubble. And outside that bubble is where I lived my first, I don't know, 25, 30, 40 years in my career. And I've learned what it's like to sign the front of a paycheck, not just the back of the paycheck, and to know how frightening it is to see whether you can make payroll at the end of the week. I mean, these are experiences that many of you know. I know what it's like to worry whether you're going to get fired. There were a couple of times I wondered whether I was going to get a pink slip. And I care very deeply about the American people. And it frightens me to see a president who has made so many mistakes when people are hurting so badly. You've got 25 million Americans today out of work, or stop looking for work, or just get part-time jobs and need full-time employment. 25 million Americans. And that is the result, I believe, of a series of policies that didn't work. The president borrowed $787 billion, saying he'd fashion a stimulus that would get America working again. And he would hold unemployment below 8%. That was his bogey, 8%. It has not been below 8% since. By his own definition, he's failed. We need somebody who will succeed. And anything from Obamacare to cap and trade to card check to Dodd-Frank, all these initiatives he proposed and pushed did the one thing small business can't deal with. Small business can deal with bad news. It learns how to accommodate the changes and can step up to them. What it can't deal with is uncertainty. And every piece of legislation created greater uncertainty. If you're in the healthcare sector, you think you want to make new investments and hire people with Obamacare hanging over your shoulder? If you're a community bank and you see a 2,300-page bill on financial services coming through with all new regulations yet to be written, are you willing to give out all sorts of new loans to small business? Of course not. The president has made it harder for this economy to reboot. He did not cause this recession. He just made it worse. And he is not the author of a recovery. He just made it slower. And I want to have a president, and I hope I'm that guy, who will go to work to put Americans back to work with rising incomes and bright prospects for themselves and for their kids. And I will do it with your help. Now, because you're almost all sitting down, I feel like I can just go on forever, and you're going to want to get rid of me here. But there's so many frustrations I have watching the president. I don't think he's a bad guy. I just don't think he understands how our economy works. I think he's over his head. And let me give you an example of that. And having spent my life in business, small business and then bigger business, you know that for a while I worked in what's called venture capital. What is that? Well, we got money from other people, and we would use that to help start businesses, or sometimes acquire businesses that were in trouble or not doing so well, and then try and make them better or get the businesses to grow. And when you have other people's money and your own invested in something, you're very careful with it. So they can give you a contrast between how the government works and how the private sector works. When we decided to get behind a company called Staples, which I knew you would know well, we decided, okay, you know how many people, by the way, work at Staples? 90,000 people work at Staples today. We opened the very first store. I was there the night we opened the first store. We helped stock the shelves. All right? Guess how much money we put in to get that first store open, and to get the computers in place, and to buy the inventory to put on the shelves. It was about $5 million, if my memory is correct, something in that range. And if we knew that if it worked well, we'd open a second store and put in more money to get it going. That's how we did it. Now let's contrast that with the president's investment in Solyndra. $530 million. He puts in $530 million. They have the Taj Mahal where they have their offices. Our office, we were in the back of an old empty shopping mall. And our chairs were Naugahyde chairs with an old table that we used as the board table. People were, because it was the private sector and we were pulling ourselves up in some respects by our bootstraps, we were careful. So what happened to the $500 and some odd million the government put in? Why, it obviously failed. And businesses fail. I won't be critical of the fact that business failed. I'm critical of the way they managed it and how much money they put in. And let me tell you something else, which is, I think the president believed that by choosing a solar company and putting money in it, he would encourage solar technology. He doesn't understand that what he did discouraged solar technology. Why do I say that? Because across America, I'll bet there were 100 different people who had different ideas for solar companies. And we're trying to go out and get investors, their mother, their father, their friends, venture capitalists, to give them $5 million or $2 million to get their solar idea going. But when the government picks their winner and puts in $500 million, no one else can get money. Everyone says, oh, the government's already picked the winner here. So in fact, what he did made it harder for our technology of the future to be developed. This president is a nice guy who just doesn't get it. I spent my career in the private sector. I'm not perfect, but I do get it, and I will use what I know to get America to work. Of you who heard me last night at the debate, and I know about half of those that put their hands up actually saw it last night. But for those that did, I'm kidding. For those who did see me at the debate last night, you'll know that I said that this election is more than just about jobs, and more than just about shrinking the size of the federal government, both of which are extraordinarily important, and have human cost associated with making a success there. But I say this is also a battle for the soul of America. This is, in my view, a campaign where Americans will ask, who are we as a people? What does America stand for? I do believe that the vision of the founders, with freedom and the pursuit of happiness, through opportunity, with individuals working hard, getting education, taking risks, hopefully a little lucky now and then, and also having great dreams, that builds the strongest nation in the world economically, and it builds the most fulfilled citizenry. But there are people, and I think our president is one, who has a very different view, and would try and make America more of a European-style welfare state, with the idea of government as not providing freedom and opportunity, but instead saying, how can we take from some to give from others? And the message of that vision is to try and replace our ambition culture with envy, and to divide America, and to poison the spirit of our nation, and prevent us from becoming one nation under God. Yes. That is not their intent. That just happens to be the outcome if one begins to divide Americans. I believe America is great because we come together and we sacrifice for this land. I know that now and then it gets a little discouraging as we see the challenges around us, but I have to tell you, this chance to run for president of the United States, I never imagined I'd do it. I mean, this is just a very strange and an unusual thing to be in the middle of. But one of the, I was just a high school kid like everybody else with skinny legs. And, I imagined I'd be, in business all my career. And somehow I backed into the chance to do this. It's given me the opportunity to go around the country and meet people and make friends all over the country. And to find people, everyday people, living everyday lives. Not the people who are in the news. By definition, people in the news are the people doing something unusual. We're not interested in just sort of seeing what an average American is doing. We want to see someone doing something unusual. So I get to meet the average American person and see what's in their minds and in their hearts. And I come away more optimistic about the country. We're very patriotic people. We're a hard-working people. We like work. We work more hours, by the way, than do the Germans or the French or even the Japanese. We're a hard-working people. We love our country. We're a patriotic people. I have several patriotic hymns I love. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain. I joke to the people in Iowa that corn counted as an amber wave of grain. Perhaps a favorite verse. Oh, beautiful for heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country love, and mercy more than life. Do we have any veterans in the room here today? Yes. Would you please raise your hand so we can recognize you? By the way, with all this talk about cutting budgets, I'm not going to cut the base budget of the Department of Defense, because I want to make sure. Rebuild our Navy and make it modern. Our Navy is smaller than any time since 1917, and the world is not a safer place. I want to update our Air Force. Our Air Force is smaller and older than any time since 1947 when it was founded. I want to make sure we have enough troops so that we don't have to have the multiple rotations we've just seen in these last conflicts, and I'd add at least 100,000 troops to our military. And finally, I want to make sure that we have the resources to care for our veterans in the way they deserve to be treated. There's one more verse to that song I might mention. It says, oh, beautiful for patriot dream that sees beyond the years. The patriots, the founders of this country, when they crafted America, did not just embody in those documents their vision for the near term. They saw beyond the years, to our times and beyond. The principles of America are the principles that have made us the most powerful nation on earth, a great and good nation, and they are the principles that will restore America. And right now, as people are deciding which way we're going to go, and should we follow a president that would take us in a very foreign and unusual direction, I hope we recognize that the founders were right. That a nation founded upon liberty and opportunity, that is the course for America. I will restore and fight for those things. I will keep America strong. I will fight for the people of America.